Hello, all. Today I'm joined by Dr. Michelle Gamble, author, educator, and natural health expert who has spent over 25 years helping people transform their health. She specializes in guiding those with chronic illnesses to reconnect with their body's natural ability to heal. Yeah, good job, right? And
Yeah.
move beyond dependency and medications and disease management. Dr. Michelle supports women in ways that help life feel steadier and more manageable. Her message is powerful. Every person carries a divine healer within. So I'm excited to hear her insights today. And so welcome, Dr. Michelle. I'm so excited that you could squeeze some time out for us today. And so we got a little a taste of who you are. Is there anything that you'd like to throw in there before I ask our first question?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I'm a mother of five adult children, and they have been a tremendous influence on me. I tell everyone that they are actually my best teachers in life. So,
That I think most mothers would agree with you on that. You can, it's right here in your face, right?
mhm, mhm.
So, if I might ask, what do you see happening for women right now? What's their biggest struggle with health care and taking care of themselves?
Wow, good question. And I guess I'm just going to jump into the deep side of the
Oh, you
water with
go,
that
girl.
one. I
Do
truly
it.
believe that the biggest challenge we have as women today is just understanding who we are as women. I think, unfortunately, we were served a pile of forced dung with the feminist movement that gave us this belief that we needed to perform like men instead of acknowledging the beauty and the power and the phenomenal design that we have as women. We have been taught to denigrate the powerful role of womanhood and motherhood. And because of that, we have placed ourselves into circumstances that are not in alignment with our divine design. Today, we as women can have the hoorah train of saying that now we are just like men with regards to cardiovascular disease and all of these other depreciating metrics because we have opted into their world and we have chosen to denigrate the role of motherhood. We have chosen to abdicate the role of taking care of our children. I cannot imagine anything more powerful than being able to truly design the next generation. And that's our power as women, more so than anything that can be accomplished in the boardroom or in any other platform. When you have the ability to actually form and create the next generation, there is nothing that can supersede that. Now, in addition to that reality that we have abdicated our divinely designed format of empowerment, we have also chosen to jump into a world that is not in alignment with how our body is designed. What does Michelle mean by that? A big complaint that I get from women when they work with me is I'm so stressed out. And I don't know if you've seen this also, Sally, but I think that that's probably the number one thing that ranks in terms of the disease matrix for women. I'm
Mhm.
so stressed out because we are in that world of thinking that we can do everything and be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Now, do not misconstrue this as Michelle saying that we as women are not powerful and capable of doing many things. What I will say is that, as my mama always told me, there's a time and a place for everything under the heavens. And I think that one of the best things we can do, especially for our daughters, is to help them to be strategic with how they plan out their lives. The reality is that there are certain forces beyond our control that dictate certain realities, namely Mother Nature. Mother Nature has a time limit, time span. Now, when you decide to go beyond, say, 40 and then go into the world of saying, well, now is when I want to have children, guess what? That's not really in alignment with the way God designed our bodies. Our God designed our bodies to be most fertile during the age of 18 to 40. That is
Mhm.
when our fertility is at its peak. That is when everything is humming, when everything is working, and on and on and on. This ability to have our children at a young age also creates a situation where, as we get older, we're able to shift into another part of our evolution as women. We're able to shift into what we refer to as the wise woman. Now, with the wise woman, and it's reflected in our natural bodies, the wise woman no longer prioritizes making a baby. The wise woman now has shut down the reproductive system, and that energy is now capable of being used for the benefit of guiding all of the other generations. So you'll notice that as you get older as women, you start to see things a lot more clearly. You're not as caught up in the energy of the hormonal systems, which can throw us into all kinds of interesting dynamics, from the intensity of lustful relationships to the almost mentally ill fluctuations of I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm this, I'm that. As you become older, those hormones start to stabilize, and they're not as variant in their fluctuations. And you're capable of having a much more clarity, a much more insight, much more analytical. In some ways, we become quote unquote more masculine, in the sense that we're able to look at things much more divorced from emotions than
Mhm.
when we were younger, right? And
Mhm.
this is the zone that most cultures refer to as the wise woman.
Yeah.
In other cultures, the wise woman is revered. She's revered for her ability to guide not only her own household, but also the community at large. But that is something that is designated at that point in our development. And
Mhm.
we have almost flipped everything on its head. We're trying to go out there and rule the world and dominate the world and all of those types of things in our younger years. And then when we get into 40, 45, pushing, some of them pushing 50, then is when we say, oh, well, now I want to have a baby. And that's when Mother Nature's like, girlfriend,
Yeah.
that ship has sailed. Now it's time for you to be the wise woman. So a lot of things need to be considered as we look at how we move forward as women. And what I keep asking and I ask this of all people, not just our women, but also our men. I ask them, are you in alignment with the divine design? Are you in alignment with how God has constructed the world, how God has constructed our bodies to function? And what I tell people is there is something that I name as sins, simply ignoring nature's supremacy.
Mm.
As human beings, we have the ego that tells us we can redefine gravity. you
Mhm.
know, we're going to redefine all of the rules and try to get away with breaking all of the rules and trying to catch up later on.
Yeah.
And this is reflected in practically every area of health, everything from as simple as our sleep patterns. Now we live in a world where we don't have to be confined to the rising of the sun and
Mm.
then the lowering of the sun and the outcome of the moon. We say that, well, we can stay awake as long as we want.
We can
And
live
then
underwater too. We can fly in
exactly.
the air. We can do all sorts of things.
Yeah. And so with something as simple as pushing the boundaries with regards to sleep, and then the next day we say, well, yeah, I only had 1 hour sleep, but heck, I'm just going to drink a whole lot of coffee, or I'm going to have one of those Red Bulls or whatever it is, because I don't have to comply. I don't have to go along with nature's supremacy. I am more supreme than nature.
Yeah.
And a big part of why we enter into many disease states is because we choose to go contrary to the natural designs.
And I love that point. And I agree with you on following our rhythm the best we can. But I can
Mhm,
hear people saying, and it was in my life as well,
mhm,
that, but Dr. Michelle,
mhm,
we are in a society that often takes two incomes. There are
mhm,
many single parents who are working there. And so, how in the world can we follow the softer feminine? And I'm 100%. The thing that got me growing up was this commercial, and I'm going to date myself. You can bring home the bacon, fry it up in the
fry it up in
pan,
the pan and
and
never,
let
yeah.
him forget he's a man because you're a
Hmm.
woman.
Hmm.
And that was the mantra that
Hmm.
many of us or our parents grew up with.
Yeah.
And so when I tried to do that, it did not work.
Hmm.
However, I still needed to bring in an income. So
Hmm.
what is, as many of our listeners do too.
Hmm.
So what is how do you balance that with
Hmm.
the mindset that you're talking about?
Well, there are so many layers to that, Sally, and you are absolutely accurate in saying that unfortunately, we're looking at a situation that is much more prolific with regards to our entire society.
Mhm.
I can never say that it's simply about what we as women do, because of course we are in living in the world and we are in complement to our masculine counterpart. And the same way that I talked about the things that we need to teach our girls, we also need to teach our boys the importance of protecting our women, the importance of standing up and providing and creating that space so that she can stand in her femininity without feeling the stress of having to quote unquote do everything. I myself have been a single mother. For the majority of the time of raising my children, I was quote unquote a single mother in the sense that I divorced my husband rather early in the development of my children. Even with that, I made sure that I intentionally sought out men to be in the lives of my children
Mhm.
in a very positive manner, to give them that understanding of honoring of our men, the honoring of that masculine entity.
Mhm.
And I'm very grateful to God that I was able to enter into a career where my schedule reflected the schedule of my children.
Mhm.
So when I was married, I was able to homeschool my children. I was able to stay at home. And when we got divorced, I was able to move into the school system as a teacher. Subsequently, my calendar was basically a reflection of my children. When
Right.
my children were at home, I was at home. When my children were at school, I was at school. And even so, it was a challenge for me. Well, it wasn't really a challenge for me because I was brought up very differently. I was brought up in another country. And so I wasn't brought up with a lot of the commercialism that most Americans are brought up with. And I say that to emphasize that when I was married, we were able to make it work on one income. Did
Mhm.
that mean that we made certain sacrifices? Yes. We didn't have cable TV. We didn't have, two cars. We only had one car. We didn't have a lot of the things that other people had, but it's about trade-offs. What is more important to me? What was more important to us as a family was for me to be at home and for my husband to be the person bringing home the bacon. Because there's certain things that we provide as women that cannot be provided by men. There's certain things that you provide as a mother that daycare is not going to provide. Unfortunately, as I said before, we were sold a bill of goods, meaning that we were told that the government is going to take care of our children. And that is why a lot of us turned over our children, myself included, turned over our children to the public school system that is questionable at best and evil at worst in terms of the development of our children. And now we have a situation where more and more of our children are literally psychotic. They're depressed, they're anxious, they're not able to learn effectively. In fact, the school system in this nation is deplorable. We are ranked like 28, 29 when it comes to mathematics, when it comes to science. And as an industrialized nation, we are arguably the most powerful, most rich country in the world. And yet our children are very low performing academically.
And
And our
couldn't that
children,
also be because of the kinds of foods, I put quotes around that, the process, the ultra processed
mhm.
way we're
Yeah,
eating can affect, I mean,
exactly.
there's
And
a
all of
lot of
that
things that
factors
go
in.
into that, right? The
All
stresses at
well,
home, yeah, yeah.
all of that factors in. And so even if we wanted to talk about the foods, what I share with people is this. The food companies are not the big bad villains. Nobody puts a gun to our heads and says, you have to feed your child X, Y, and Z. The
Mm,
reality is that we choose to feed our children those things more so for convenience than anything else.
mhm, mhm,
The reality is, I don't care how much you sit there and you lobby the legislators or you picket the food companies. When it comes down to the nitty gritty, the question becomes, are you taking the time to prepare the food for your children?
mhm,
So again, it's a trade-off. I recognize that the school system produces crap in the cafeteria. And subsequently, I made up the food, the lunches for my children. I
mhm,
fed my children breakfast every day before they went to school. I fed them lunch in the form of their bag lunch that they took to school. I
mhm.
fed them dinner when they came home. My children didn't even know what Mickey D's was until they got older and they would go on field trips with their friends and their buddies. We
Yeah,
would drive past 10 Mickey D's and I wouldn't hear a peep out of my kids because all they knew was that that place was where we went to take a dump if we had to stop when we were doing long trips to go see grandma. That was the only time that we went into a
ever.
fast food restaurant because I was not under the illusion that that fast food restaurant had the priority of my child's health. It
No,
was
it's
about
true.
how to make a buck. And
It is a capitalistic society. Yeah,
not upset with them. It is
no.
what it is.
Hmm.
Now, like I said, nobody puts a gun at our heads to say, you have to feed your child this consumable. I can't even call it food. But
Right.
it comes back to what are your values? What are your priorities?
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
you say, you know what, my value and my priority is to provide my child with the best food possible that's within my budget, you will make very different choices. And then I even hear from people saying, oh, well, it's much more expensive to feed my kids food than to go down to Mickey D's. And that is the biggest lie that we are feeding ourselves because as a mathematician, as a math teacher, I would challenge my kids all the time. I said, okay, let's go down to the nitty gritty. How much do you guys spend when you go get a Happy Meal or whatever the heck it is that they sell at these places?
Yeah.
Write it down. And I would have my children do budgeting. And I said, okay, now let's budget for what if you get a bag of beans, bag of rice, some vegetables, and you're maybe going to max out at say $20. But guess what? That's going to be able to provide you with like 3, 4 meals for your entire family, as opposed to that slop that you're getting at Mickey D's, which costs a whole lot money,
Hmm.
a whole lot more money.
Well, you get that prize in it too.
Ah, well, there you go. Hey, that makes it all worthwhile. What am
Absolutely.
I thinking? And then, as you said, this this feeds into our disease manifestation
Yeah.
because as long as you are feeding your children that slop, you cannot expect them to be Einsteins. That's just reality.
hmm
Those consumables are not created with the nourishing of the brain in mind. And it's the same thing when it comes to behavioral issues. It's ridiculous to me when I go and I do presentations in the community and parents will get upset with me because I make it known to them that the reason why your child is ADD, ADHD is because there are a lot of things that you are not doing. And there's certain things that you are doing. Everything from the fact that from the baby is popped out of the womb, they slap a phone in its hands
Mhm.
or some kind of tablet, as opposed to engaging with the baby, having conversation with the baby, reading to the baby, doing playtime with the baby. Now we're looking at the screens to be the baby's nanny.
Mhm.
And then as they go to school, like I said, with all the junk, and I would ask my students all the time, hey, what did you guys have for breakfast? Skittles,
Mhm.
Fruity Pebbles,
Mhm.
and Danish. And they go to the school cafeteria, donut,
Mhm.
want to scream.
Mhm.
And then we get upset, as you said, when our children can't perform.
Mhm.
Who's to blame? As I said, I am not going to be the one to blame big food or big ag or big pharma or any of these people because we have the power of choice.
Yeah.
We have the power to say, you know what? I want something different for myself. I want something different for my children. I want something different for my husband, for my mom. I remember when I was growing up, my dad stepped in to take care of my grandmother.
Mhm.
And he took such good care of her that when she died at 107, she was on no medications at all
Wow.
because he
So cool.
decided to take care of her, make sure that she was getting
Right.
the proper foods, make sure that she was getting the proper supplements, the proper herbs and things of that nature. And
Right.
so she died at 107
With no
on
medic.
no medications.
Wow. Wow. That's a great way I mean, that's a great thing to remember to hang on to. And another thing I'm going to throw in here is we vote with our pocketbooks.
Exactly.
So anything that is important to us, we're going to spend money on. And I love how you said, get real on your values.
Hmm.
And I don't want anybody here listening to feel like, oh, they've messed up, they're a horrible person.
Oh,
No, this
no.
is an eye-opening conversation. Michelle, I love your passion behind it. And Michelle is a wealth of information about this, and she has a fabulous website, a fabulous resource that I am going to put in the show notes so you will be able to follow up with her. And I believe we should have you back for another conversation because
Because
we're just getting started, it sounds like,
and
so
and the biggest thing, Sally, is that I want our women to know you are powerful.
very, yeah,
You are so powerful. You literally have the power of creation.
yeah,
That is how powerful you are. And when we say creation, not only in terms of making babies, but in terms of creating the world. Think about the
definitely.
way in which we influence everyone in our environment. There's just something about a woman that,
Hmm.
as the saying goes, launches the thousand ships. There's
Yeah,
something about a woman, the mystique of a woman,
right.
and if we would just recognize how powerful we are and to discard all of the disdain and all of the misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the world that is trying to get you to do or be something else, to devalue the way in which you're constructed, the way in which this system has made a medical anomaly of practically everything that is feminine. Like I said, everything from menopause, they've medicalized it as if there's something wrong with you transitioning into the wise woman phase of your life. You are beautifully designed. There is nothing that needs to be changed or corrected with you. The fact that you are passionate, the fact that you are emotional, that is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And so our goal is to help you to live that beauty, to release that beauty, to understand that beauty, appreciate that beauty, welcome that beauty, and use it towards your upliftment and empowerment throughout every area of your life.
Wow. Wow. Yes. Right.
Mhm,
Don't hide. Don't listen to when
mhm.
people call you, all the ugly duckling thing. No way. Right? Beautiful at
Exactly.
every stage of our lives. And we need to reinforce that with our daughters and
Hmm.
reinforce that with our sons
Exactly.
so that they
Exactly.
can also. It takes two. And
It
so
does. It
life is
does.
a balance like that.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So thank you so much, Dr. Gamble. This has been a fabulous time. I know you've created a lot of thought-provoking. There may be some interesting conversations at the dinner
Yeah.
table
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I want to, if something that you as listeners heard today that spoke to you, please like and subscribe and share this message with someone who may need it. And until
Exactly.
next time, may your home and your heart feel like a safe haven. Bye for now.
Peace and blessings. Bye bye.
Thank you.